I don't think we have a very robust and vibrant audience this morning on a Monday. So, well, good morning. I'm Nancy Grabner. Some of you may know me as the President and CEO. Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. Some of you may recognize me. I'm Nancy Grabner. I'm the CEO and President of St. Joseph Mercy Chelsea Hospital, and I was invited this morning to just help facilitate this meeting. So bear with me. I think this might be my first time doing this. So first of all, welcome, good morning. And I'm going to take a moment and just read a couple of the ground rules for the forum, and then we'll go ahead and get welcome Congressman Tim Walberg in for the discussion this morning. So in terms of the event rules, obviously we're standing room only, so I guess if you can kind of get cozy up here toward the front and allow some that are still standing outside to tuck in a little bit, that would be great. Just keep moving along there on the sides of the building. So, all of you probably had a question card handed out, and you can see that all questions must be submitted using a question card. So in essence of using our time well and making sure that we feel like we're pretty organized this morning and can get these incredible questions answered, we're trying to put them in themes so that we can make sure we touch on each of the themes that you have interest in. The question card must be fully completed with the required information. Completed question cards, we already have them up here at the table. For the safety and visibility of all attendees, no sign shall block the view of another attendee. So those of you with signs, please be cognizant of your neighbors here and be respectful to everyone. And then individuals who interrupt, disrupt, or interfere with the orderly conduct of the event may be asked to leave. So for that, we thank you for attending this morning, and I think with that we'll welcome Congressman Tim Walberg in, who's already arrived. Good morning. So thank you for being here, Congressman. It looks like you have a great constituency that's anxious to be with you.
Yeah. We're delighted. And Nancy, thank you so much. I don't know whether will this work?
Yep.
I was mentioning to the Legion members when I came in, I said we ought to have this for their annual chili cook-off. We can make a lot of charitable funds this morning, I think. Hey, 8:30 in the morning, we're on our way to airport, but glad we had this opportunity, glad you took advantage of being here. It's going to be a full week in Washington, but it's a good way to start the week by having a town hall like this. Sorry that some of you will have to stand, but hopefully it'll be interesting enough. The feet won't participate negatively too much. We've had a interesting few weeks so far in a session in Washington. A lot of activity going on, as you might have expected as a result of what went on with the outcome of the election. We have a number of things we have to work on. We'll be talking about all of that this morning. I appreciate, Nancy, you being involved here. Good to see Donald Lazinski here, your state representative. Donnie, you got the agree signs. I'm going to get the disagree signs, but hey, as I said on Saturday morning, America's a great place. I love Americans. We don't always have to agree, and that's part of the freedom we have. But hopefully we can work together. And this country is a bit divided right now, and I would hope that each of us in the room, myself included, would do our best to be unifiers in the long run, even as we speak strongly on the issues of our concern. And hey, it's been that way since the inception of our country, and so far we haven't had a vice president calling for a duel with a member of Congress. That's a good thing. So, in order to get moving as quickly as possible, I know, Nancy, you're trying to put some things together in patterns so we can ask the questions to get as many issues dealt with this morning as possible in an hour that goes so quickly. Can we get to it?
We sure can. So, because I'm in healthcare, I have to start with healthcare, right? All right, so the first question. Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. The American Health Care Act is opposed by the American Medical Association, the American Hospital Association, Governor Snyder. Will you vote to reject the AHCA? And if so, please describe your reasons for your answer.
I will be voting for the AHCA. The reasons I'm going to do that is because, bottom line is, the Affordable Care Act is melting down. This is a rescue. This is a rescue from a system that was doomed to fail from the very beginning and is failing. Right now, 5 states in the union only have one health care plan. 5 states. Over 1,000 counties in the United States only have one choice in health care. So bottom line, we are going to fix that. To give competition, variety, creativity a chance, and to give the opportunity for patients and the medical care providers to work together to decide what's best for the patient. And that's what our plan does, and we're going for it. Next question.
Okay.
I hope you understand, when we have this large of a group, that the questions done this way are the only way it'll work. Otherwise, we'll be talking over each other. And I won't talk over people. Go ahead.
All the questions, I'm sorry, the ground rules where the questions needed to be sent up in advance. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next one. The next question, and there's quite a few of these. There's about 4 or 5 themes here. We want to make sure that we get through those. And Congressman, you might need to turn yours off while I'm using mine. There we go. That's better. Thank you. We'll get the technology straight. So there's numerous questions that read as, thank you for supporting the Great Lake Restoration Initiative. Please explain why you do not support funding for the EPA, which enforces the Clean Water and the Clean Air Acts, which impact our Great Lakes.
Good question, and there are things that in this room probably the majority of us agree on. One of those is the GLRI, Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. My record has been in support of that consistently throughout the course of time of funding that. We're going to continue to do that. That's a bipartisan issue that we work strongly together on. The Michigan delegation and the Great Lakes delegation, for the most part, stands together in making sure that we protect 20% of the world's fresh water source, and not only a water source, but an infrastructure issue that impacts in a positive way. The question says, why won't I support funding EPA? I've always supported funding EPA, but funding it with the priorities intended and making sure that they carry on their work. We've seen significant waste in the EPA, where they've gone on projects like Waters of the U.S., and in fact, were found to be in violation of the law in the way they tried to get that passed, which would have tremendously impacted the people in our district, specifically the agricultural industry, in going beyond their responsibility in regulating farm puddles and drainage ditches, and not taking care of the Great Lakes and things like algae bloom and other things that they should have been involved with, and were found to be in major failure by a preeminent scientist dealing with water security in our country, especially pipelines. And it was Mark Edwards. They had a major problem in letting the Flint issue go and not getting on our Department of Natural Resources and DEQ and the city of Flint in doing the things that they are required by law to do. We have also asked the EPA for years now to do what the law requires them to do. And moving on close to 12 years, they have rejected our efforts to get them to upgrade and evaluate the lead copper rule. So, the only way we control agencies at times is through policy. Donna, thank you for being here. And I know you got to go read to a class right now. Tell them hello for me, just don't tell them where I am, okay? It's been good to develop a relationship with your new legislator, and I think we will work together in a number of areas well. So that's the issue with the EPA. We will fund them at appropriate levels, but remember, we are $20 trillion in debt. It is time for us to establish priorities like you do.
We don't want to pay for any of those.
Okay, we're going to go to the next question. Next question, and there's many of these as well. You have said that the federal government has no place in education. Can you explain why you support federal dollars going to private and for-profit schools? Thank you.
Bill, 610.
My position is that the primary responsibility for educating our young people, of course, goes to the parents. That's the primary responsibility. The primary agencies that are responsible in meeting the needs that the parents bring with their children is at the state level. Article 8, Section 1 of the state constitution, and many of you have been to my town hall meetings, and even as recently as Saturday, have heard me quote this, and you can go check it out in our Michigan Constitution, where it says, religion, morality, knowledge being necessary to good government and the happiness of mankind, schools and the means of education shall forever be encouraged. Now, if you were to go to the federal Constitution, which is a smaller document, very specific, adopted by the people of the United States, you'll find no reference to education at all. And that's where my statement comes, that the federal government does not have a place established for them in education. Now, until the Constitution is changed, I'm going to stand with the Constitution, but it does.
They didn't talk about airplanes either.
Well, we, as far as I know, aren't building airplanes. The education of our young people needs the education of our country needs to have opportunity whereby the best interest of our children, those being educated, are carried out. And so I assume when I say the education of our children, it means all children. And that's what we're responsible to do. Now, that can be done best, I believe, by having more opportunity and authority given as close to the education as possible. And so that comes down to the local school districts, the administrators, the faculty, the school boards, the parents, and then at least with the State Board of Education, to make sure that we have the flexibility necessary so that every child, all of you who have children, you found out each of your children learn a little bit differently, that they have the best opportunity available for them, whatever that form takes. Now, it's our responsibility to make sure that there's freedom of choice in that opportunity, and that it's not a one-size-fits-all. My 3 kids were not one-size-fits-all. My seven grandkids were not a one-size-fits-all. My twin brother and I went through the first 13 years of our academic experience in in public school. We had private school opportunities in higher education. We had alternatives. And that's one of the reasons why people come from all over the world to our higher education institutions, because there are all sorts of choices. And so, bottom line is, I'm going to continue to support education, and as we did last term, in a bipartisan fashion, we were able to put through two very important pieces of legislation. One of those was the Skills Act. And that was supported by Republicans and Democrats and signed by President Barack Obama. And all that did was say that we're going to put more authority back to the local school districts, ISDs, community colleges, apprenticeship programs, training programs from industry, manufacturing industry. And those dollars will be going back to establish the opportunity for training for the real world jobs right in the community where those jobs are at. That was the first thing we did. The second was the Every Student Succeeds Act, which we passed, that said, while there may be some good ideas in No Child Left Behind, while there may be some well-meaning plans under Common Core, yet it should not be a federal mandate. And so if the states want to use those for quality control, fine. But if Michigan has a better plan that works in the local districts with the students that we have, then we ought to be able to do it. And so that was signed in law, and it's being implemented right now, which gives more authority right at the local level where the education takes place.
Okay, we're getting some kickback here, so the next stack, and there's quite a few of these that are worded identical, so I think I'll cover many of you with this next question. As a man of faith, will you pledge to support truth and integrity and demand investigations and resignations if there is evidence that elected officials led or misled the public?
Yes.
Investigation subcommittee.
How?
That's not answering the
You are on the
question.
investigation subcommittee of the Energy and Commerce Committee. What will you do? You are on the investigation subcommittee.
I answered the question as written.
Not very well.
Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll get to another question so that we don't lose any time this morning. There's quite a few of this question as well, so I know that many of you will be anxious to hear this question. What will you do to support and defend the civil rights won by the LGBT community in the coming years?
I will continue to do everything that comes in my oath of office to defend our country, defend the equal rights that are given in our Constitution, and to make sure that all people have the freedoms afforded to them by the greatest country of freedom on this earth, regardless of race, creed, color, national orientation, or sexual orientation. That's in the Constitution right now, and we're protecting that, and I will continue to protect it.
We'll hold you to that.
Okay, the next question we're going to move on to is, the lack of affordable housing in Washtenaw County is already a problem. Will you oppose President Trump's elimination of the Home Investment Partnership Program?
Let me put it this way.
That's a yes or no question.
Remember, some of you heard this plenty on Saturday, but you're going to hear it again.
The President proposes, Congress disposes.
You got it! I love people who listen. The President proposes, Congress disposes.
Yes or no question.
We are going to make sure that, number one, we do our level best this term to expand our economy, to give more opportunity for people to benefit and to grow in their ability to be independent and to carry on their lives in ways that they can benefit by being citizens of this country in housing, in employment, in insurance, in any way that they want. And so we will look at anything the president offers to us, but it is Congress's responsibility to make sure we grow an economy that benefits all. Let me give one follow-up to that, because it says, how will I vote? The president doesn't put a bill before Congress. Remember that. It is Congress that writes the bills. The president has no authority or even ability to write a bill.
Okay. Next question has to do with Meals on Wheels. Please address the federal budget and the cuts being proposed to Meals on Wheels and public radio. I liken it to having to make difficult decisions in a family when income deficits come up. Couldn't some of these social issues be accomplished locally rather than using federal dollars?
Yeah, I agree. It could be, and that's what we'll be looking at. Will we do away with total funding of Meals on Wheels? I doubt it.
60% though.
There's not the support there. Public broadcasting, will we do away with all funding for public broadcasting? No. No, it's not going to happen. Will we be involved in giving the so-called haircuts to a whole gamut of funding areas in our budget? We better. We've got a $20 trillion debt. And like you and your family budget, at times you cut. And in business and industry, you set priorities, and you have to cut at times. We have to cut. And that means the opportunity comes for us to make those priority decisions and do the best we can to make sure that resources are left at the local level, at the state level, where it is far more easily controlled than it is at the federal level. But if you ask me if all of those, as defined in the President proposed budget, are going to pass, let me take you back in history just briefly. President Barack Obama submitted 8 budget bills. How many of those were passed?
Gee, I wonder why.
0.
Wonder why.
In fact, in order to get his budget before Congress for a vote, on 2 occasions at least, Congressman Mulvaney, who is now OMB director, Congressman Mulvaney submitted himself a willingness to introduce the president's budget as written before the House of Representatives. In each of those cases, that budget bill got 0 votes, including Nancy Pelosi's lack of supporting it. Now that's the example I'm giving you of what a president's budget means. It gives us ideas of where he wants to go. In this case, I believe he's saying, I'm serious about reducing our national deficit and reducing our debt. And so, as members of Congress, I expect you to understand that you send me budgets that are bloated, I'm not going to sign them. So think carefully. I appreciate that, because my grandkids will experience a debt problem and a lack of their needs being met if we don't do some things right now that are responsible. I hear Mar-a-Lago and other things pointed out. The president right now has an executive budget for him that comes from the last administration. We haven't passed a budget directly for him yet. We will take care to make sure that the executive budget area that he has control over for all the administrative functions of the cabinet, etc., all of the departments of state come under the executive budget. Those are ones are going to get haircuts too, including his executive spending plan as well. But let me answer a question that probably will come up. And let me make it clear that whether it was a past president, including Barack Obama, or this president, we will make sure that the funding that is necessary is there to make sure they are protected. Okay?
That's a problem.
Okay, next question. Given the expected boom in automation in the upcoming years, why is our government so focused on manufacturing jobs? Should we be working toward educating and preparing workers for tomorrow's economy instead?
Absolutely. But we can do both. We can walk and chew gum. Sadly, for too long we have not trained people for the real world jobs. And we have manufacturing jobs that are going wanting right now for people to do CNC machine operation, which is high tech. We have lack of jobs in the STEM industries, including engineering. We have lack of people to fill jobs in welding, weld tech, into the medical health fields. Right now, just this past week, my office dealt with, as well as State House and State Senate members, as we work together to find means by which we can have nurses come over from Canada to fill positions that we're lacking. Now, bottom line is, folks, we need to do both. We need to grow a manufacturing economy, because a nation without manufacturing doesn't survive. And a state like Michigan that doesn't have manufacturing doesn't survive. Thankfully, we're coming back. But we have to train people for the real world, and that's why the Skills Act was passed, giving more emphasis, more dollars back to the local and state level that can be used to train people right here for the real world jobs of the 21st century. We're going to keep doing that.
Tuition is too much.
Okay, we're going to stay, I guess, somewhat similar in a way. Do you believe that medical research should be cut? We are the leader in the world. Can you approve part of the president's budget, or is it all or nothing?
The president proposes, Congress disposes. I think I answered that question on that already.
What will you do?
Well, I think the example was set this past term when I, along with the majority of my colleagues, both Democrats, Republicans, House and Senate, and the President, signed the Century 21 Cures. That act established a greater emphasis as well as funding base for going after cures that right now National Institutes of Health and others are coming very close to achieving. Putting research dollars there in place and setting the priorities so that they are used for those purposes that meet needs of people that have significant health problems right now that we're very close to solving. That's what we did, and we attached to that as well a long-term solution, or not solution, but effort toward solution, that my good friend and colleague from Pennsylvania, Tim Murphy, a clinical psychologist who has been the champion for making sure that mental health issues, now including opioid heroin abuse, addiction issues, are covered. And that mental health bill was attached to Century 21 Cures. And it is now wending its way through being enacted, and the opportunity to make sure that we carry on with research and development in both the physical and mental health areas and use the dollars with priorities appropriately. That's what we need to do. And so I think the President will see, if he hasn't seen already, the intentions of Congress to make sure that those vital areas are addressed.
What about unedited basic research? What about basic research? What about basic research?
Okay.
It's in there.
Is it like ragu spaghetti sauce? It's in there?
It's in there.
Okay. Next question. How does building a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border provide security when there are 12,000 miles of unprotected coastline along the Atlantic, Pacific coast and 5,500 miles along the U.S.-Canadian border?
Well, it's our responsibility in Congress, and an oath of office I've taken 6 times now, or 5 times now, to uphold our Constitution and defend and protect our enemy, our nation against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. We will do that. I don't know whether it be a wall. We better protect our Pacific coast and our Atlantic coast as well, including our northern borders. We better have them protected. Whatever it takes, we need to do. It doesn't take a wall in every spot. A wall is in every spot. It doesn't take necessarily a fence in every spot. It may take drones or electronic surveillance. But whatever it takes, in a world and an age right now where we have people coming here to kill us, we will do. The responsibility is to make sure that we don't have some of the atrocities that we've seen perpetrated on the people of the United States. So bottom line is, we will do what's necessary to defend and protect our borders, but make sure that, as Ronald Reagan said so eloquently, that our gates swing wide and free and open to people who desire to be Americans and enjoy the freedom that America has afforded.
What you're doing? Read is what kills
Okay, we're going to circle a little bit back around to perhaps a little bit of health care. And that is, why are you against Planned Parenthood? You co-authored a bill to defend it, yet it provides affordable health care for a large number of women. And what are the alternatives?
13,000 alternatives are out there as compared to 650 Planned Parenthood centers. 13,000 federally qualified community health centers are there, including all over this district. And each of those provide a full gamut of women's health care services, unlike Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood offers, and I was asked Saturday where I get these statistics, CBO, but more importantly, under cross-examination of the president of Planned Parenthood, she had to admit they don't do mammograms. They refer mammograms. At most, they refer mammograms. And bottom line is, the community health centers do mammograms. They do prenatal testing and care. They do the full gamut. And so that's the direction we're going. We have a law in the Hyde Act that prohibits any dollars, federal dollars, tax dollars going to abortion.
That's already there.
That's one thing that Planned Parenthood makes their money off of. So bottom line is, we will support women's health. We will not support Planned Parenthood.
Some of us have children by choice. Look.
And now you believe CB.
Okay, next question.
But you are man. How can you choose for women?
Next question. We're going to go ahead and move on so everybody can have their questions addressed this morning. This relates to tax returns. Why do you not vote for Trump to release his tax returns in full?
Well, we left that up to Rachel Maddow. Hey, it's Monday morning. You gotta have a little humor. Come on.
It's our country. It's not funny.
There is no requirement for any president to release his tax returns.
Or his birth certificate.
There is no legislation that I could vote on
Or birth certificate.
to support that or oppose that. Bottom line is, the president has to listen to the American people as well. And if he chooses to release them, he will choose to release them. If not, unless there is seen something illegal, and there are at least 3 investigations going on right now relative to the president, relative to Russian influence, etc. There is no requirement under the law for him to release those tax returns.
He got his birth certificate. He went after Paul on his birth certificate, and there was no law about that. And you're on record with the birth certificate. We want to see the taxes. We didn't want to see the birth certificate from Hawaii. We know Hawaii is part of America.
Next question, so we can keep moving across the issues here. Do you agree with the climate scientists who say global warming is occurring? And if you do agree, do you believe it's caused by human activity?
Well, I agree with some climate scientists.
Which one?
I don't know which ones you're talking about, but I agree that there is global warming, climate change, and I believe that humans have some involvement in it.
Okay, I have a couple related ones here in terms of town halls. So one is, how many town halls have you had compared to other U.S. reps and senators in Michigan? And then related to that, will you be able to hold some coffee or town hall meetings when working people are available?
So I assume that none of you are working people?
Most people work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
I am not.
Yeah, it's not funny.
We're holding this morning because, frankly, we've got a 200-day challenge in front of us to do a lot. And so we're in session more than we have been normally the last 6 years. And so in order to help have town halls, we have it anytime we can. I'm on the way to the airport now to go to Washington to do the job that I've been elected to do. We have had town halls Saturday morning in Adrian. Working people could show up there. They did.
Once.
We will have them in afternoons. I've done so far this term video conferences from my office in Washington to people back, and we had in each of those we gave the opportunity for 10 people to fill the room that would hold 10 people, and some of you were in that room.
Publish those transcripts.
And only 2 of those filled up the room. The other, we only were able to get 3 to fill up that room.
Because they don't work.
We've done multiple teletown halls from Washington, and many people, significant number of people, appreciate teletown halls because, well, let me say that not everybody appreciates it, and there are some people that, for this reason this morning, don't feel comfortable coming to a open town hall meeting as well. So we promise to do all of that. Now let me answer the question. Legistorm, which is not an organization that is necessarily friendly to me, listed me as the top 10 most live in-person town halls last term.
Last term?
And already this term, what was it, 3 weeks ago? They listed me as top 10 again so far since November
Did 3.
into this year. And we will continue it. Out of 535, I'm 10th. In the Michigan delegation, I consistently, and to this point today, have done more than any other of my Michigan delegation members, Democrat or Republican, in town hall meetings. So, again, that doesn't come from us. That comes from Legistorm. And go check Legistorm, but they rate all of the members of Congress the same way.
Where do they get their information?
Public information. So anyway, we have had town hall meetings, and I'm glad you're here this morning. And we'll have more, I promise. In fact, we will probably have another one this week.
When?
Let us respond. Let us follow up. We want to talk to you.
Okay. Thank you. Next question. Moving on. Congressman Walberg, in this age of disinformation and political agendas, how do us ordinary people educate ourselves with the truth?
That's a great question. It's a challenging question to answer. One of the ways is to come to a meeting like this. And that's why we do these town hall meetings. And as it's noted, many of my colleagues do 0 town hall meetings. We do these, and we'll continue to do town hall meetings. Now, you may not like this format, but I think many of you can see why it would be impossible to have a conversation back and forth. But we'll also have opportunities in smaller groups where we can do that back and forth conversation. And that's why we did the video conferences to have that as well. So we'll continue to do it. The other way is read widely. Read widely. Read widely. I read all sides. And I don't agree totally with all sides. And I tell some of my conservative friends, you'll feel a lot more positive about your life if you turn Fox News off regularly. And I would say to some of the rest of you, you'll feel a lot better about your life and country if you turn off CNN regularly as well. I would encourage you to turn on C-SPAN because that's unedited.
Read the BBC.
Listen to PBS, listen to NPR, listen to WJR. listen to Fox News, listen to CNN, listen to MSNBC, but do your own homework.
Read the New York Times.
Come to places like this. Read the New York Times. Read the Chicago Tribune.
Read The Economist.
Read The Economist. Read National Review. But don't take anything for granted. And bottom line is, that's the only way you can do it. We have too much editorial and commentary today, and I'm not against having that. But we ought to have also direct reporting of what actually goes on. And that's what I appreciate when I see it, and I too seldom see it from any side of the ledger of the media, national media today especially. And that's a problem for us folks because, again, let me reiterate, this country is at its best when we unite even in our diversity.
We've covered a lot of topics this morning, and I think I've captured most of the themes. But what I'd like to ask Congressman is, in terms of all of us, many of us wake up at 3 a.m. and those are usually the thoughts that are on our hearts and on our mind. So could you take a few minutes and just say, in terms of the state of Michigan, what wakes you up at 3 a.m.? What are you most concerned about? What are you working the hardest on? And share with us so that we can support your efforts.
Let me do that, and then let me open it up. We'll see what happens. That's what I said. But Nancy Graebner gave of her time to come and do this. It's not necessarily easy work. But she was asked because she's highly respected in this community, leads in healthcare in this community, and Nancy, I appreciate it. So I'm going to answer her question, and then we'll open up. You're welcome. I think what wakes me up, though I'm not frankly awakened a lot. I get up at 5:30 every morning anyway. So I try to make my sleep as efficient and as complete as possible. But what concerns me about this country is the division, is the debt, and the impact that we are putting on our kids, our grandkids, and the future of this country. I just came back from a classified congressional delegation trip to 12 countries in 10 days, including junket spots like Afghanistan, Ukraine, Czech Republic, and a number of African countries, including meeting with 167,000 Algerian Sahrawi refugees in the southern Algerian deserts. Meeting with multiple number of presidents, prime ministers, members of parliament, and a few kings. The one thing that came across from them to us regularly was that they want an America that they may not agree with in every case, but they feel is strong and consistent, and when it lays something down, it will stand behind it. And for that reason, it was impressive for them to say, we believe that right now America is coming back to that position. It's been interesting also to meet some of the leaders in the world who have come and met with this president, who have made statements publicly to make sure that their countries, as rightly their countries should hear, that they're standing up for their countries. But they're also saying behind the scenes, we can deal with a strong America. We can't deal with a weak America.
We weren't weak.
And so that is something that if you say what causes me extra thought and concern, those are the issues. When I met with a good number, in fact the largest number of our delegation of military that we met out in the field in Afghanistan, Michigan troops, a number of them from my district as well. Their concern is that the government of America, the government system of America, and the people, are they standing behind us in doing what we've been called to do? And indeed, will we be resourced as necessary in all ways, policy as well as munitions, etc., to do our job? And so let me quickly, as I just say that, let me say thank you to the American Legion here for letting us have this room this morning. We appreciate them, we appreciate the veterans, and we're going to continue. As much as I'm able to support the whole process as one member of Congress, but one member, to make sure that our military, our veterans are cared for, that this country is strong and stable and moving in the directions that will make us, for the long term, strong and stable into the next centuries. And that's my concern. So now, let's move to direct questions. And I saw this lady back here, and I'm going to ask Nancy if you will pick the people, so it won't be political. Yes.
17 of your fellow Republicans have drafted a proposal that we continue to support the study of climate change. Do you support those 17 fellow Republicans?
What bill number is it? I'll take a look at the bill. And if you'd like to get that information to my office, in fact, my office will look and see if we find out.
Email, I heard from you before. I watch how you vote.
Good. Good. We're glad to, we want you all to watch how I vote. That's part of the process. But I'm not about to take a stance on something I haven't read. Now, I read the American Health Care Reform Bill, 122 pages. That's all it was, not 2,700 pages. I've read that, and that's why I'm supporting it. But get us that information.
Okay, how about the lady in the gray coat right here on the right?
So you co-sponsored.
Louder. Repeat the question, please.
You co-sponsored HR 1313. And it is an interesting bill about the preservation of wellness programs in places of employment. Now, when I read it, the aspect that concerned me most was on the gathering of information, especially genetic testing. So my concern as a healthcare professional is who determines which conditions are genetically tested for, who's paying for that genetic testing, and who has access to that information. One of my friends was seeking employment in North Carolina, and he said that when he went into the offices, there were signs in the offices that said, "We do not discriminate based on genetic testing." That's a big concern to me, to think that employers might have access to genetic testing. And in addition, another aspect of that information gathering said that family members could also be tested. And, you know, to us, that's a big concern about privacy as healthcare professionals. I'm a pediatric nurse, my husband's an ER physician. When we read the details of that bill, we were concerned. So as a co-sponsor, you must have studied that in depth, and I'd love to hear your response.
Good question. It's a wellness bill that encourages or gives opportunity for employers to give incentives for wellness programs for their employees. The genetics language didn't change anything that's presently in law. And sadly, that's where some of the negative reports are coming, saying that we are going to mandate and give employers the opportunity to do genetics testing. No changes were made in law. At present, the sponsor of that bill, Virginia Fox, is working on language to fix that language before it has a final vote, to make sure it is very clear that we aren't changing it, but we also expect HIPAA laws and everything else to cover the privacy of individuals in the area of genetics.
Okay, I'm going to choose the gentleman in the blue shirt.
I'm a local social worker, and I see every day how hard people struggle who are poor, and for the first time in forever, they have health insurance now. The Office for the Budget, nonpartisan, says that 24 million people are going to lose their health insurance. What do you have to say about that?
Well, number one, that is not going to happen. The CBO only makes that statement based upon the one bill that they have, which is reconciliation bill, that is only, according to the Byrd rule in the Senate, only allowed to deal with revenue. The next two steps, as we call three buckets. The second bucket will come as a result of Health and Human Services and the Secretary of Health and Human Services following the language in the Affordable Care Act in 1,400 plus spots where it gives him the ability to change, shape, remake, repeal, etc., portions of the healthcare law. That's Tom Price. He will be doing that, and that will add additional resources for making sure that people have choices. The third step will come in a final bucket that will be passed by both House and Senate, doing a cleanup of what we weren't able to accomplish in the first two buckets.
Why don't you put it all?
They can make, you can't do that. You can't do it in one bill. What will happen is that CBO is basing their statements on the fact that because we do away with mandates, people automatically won't cover insurance anymore. Now, Americans generally make good decisions if they're given the opportunity. And Americans make decisions that benefit themselves. And so the opportunity will certainly be there, and we know that it won't be 14 million or 24 million people that automatically say, I don't want insurance, I'm not even going to get it. The bottom line is, right now people we're told that people have insurance coverage.
Yes.
Well, they do.
That'll go away.
And they have a piece of paper or a card that says, under the Affordable Care Act, I have insurance. But when they go to use it, they come up against a terrible problem. It's called out-of-pocket expenses. And it's costing people $7,000 to $10,000 before they get to the point that their insurance will cover it. And so the bottom line is that our approach will give people choices. They don't have to buy insurance they don't need. They will still have pre-existing condition coverage. They will still have the ability to stay on their parents' health care till 26. But they will have choices that cross state boundaries. They have a reduction in cost as a result of the competition that takes place there. And I think in the end, even you folks are going to be pretty happy about it.
Okay, next question. How about this lady in the purple sweater?
I think you'd agree that there's a crisis. I think you'd agree that there's a crisis in this country because so many people, thank you, have no retirement savings. 8 states, including Michigan, have proposed a remedy for this. Why have you sponsored legislation opposing state retirement savings plans for employees of businesses that don't have plans of their own?
Yes. Yeah,
According to David Sirota of International Business Times, you've received more than $500,000 in campaign contributions from the financial industry. This looks like payback to me. Please explain that.
How many of you would like to have the state of California, the state of Illinois, for instance, controlling your IRA with no strings attached? No ERISA controls or otherwise?
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
No, answer the question. How many of you would like, knowing the state of California and Illinois, would like to have those state legislators guarding and protecting your IRA funds without ERISA or anything controlling that?
That's not what this is about. That's not the question.
Okay, that's exactly what this is about. So let me explain the legislation.
Explain the $500,000.
The bottom line here is that Michigan doesn't have this plan in place. They aren't going to have this plan in place. They believe that there ought to be opportunities for state alternatives. So do I. But they ought to come under ERISA. Otherwise, it's not protected. It's a retirement savings protection entity that comes from the federal government that all of our retirement plans are under. I chair the subcommittee that deals with ERISA. I know the protections that are there. And so what we're saying is, states, you can do it, but you can't do it like Illinois and California that want to do it with no protections for those plans. And all of a sudden, those of you, Are there any Teamsters in the room? I won't ask this gentleman for any specifics, but I haven't stood in rooms with Teamsters. I'll never forget a 73-year-old Teamster standing up down in Monroe County Town Hall meeting, taking control of that Town Hall meeting, not willing to sit down, and ultimately saying to me, Congressman, I'm 73 years old. I had planned for my retirement. I contributed to my multi-employer pension plan that the Teamsters had for me. And now I get to the point here where that is melted down and I have 37% of my retirement left for me to use. Because of the waste, and he said fraud and abuse and the lack of care of the government in making sure that my retirement was protected as promised to me. I'm standing here right now, Congressman, wetting my pants because of the medical problems I have right now that prohibit me and preclude me from working ever again. How am I going to take care of my retirement? I'll never forget that. Never forget that. And this is a guy who's on Medicare, so Obamacare doesn't help him. He's on Medicare, but he doesn't have retirement. And so my bill was meant to make sure that if states want to do it, fine, but it has to come under ERISA laws. So we don't have tragic situations like that develop as a result of state mishandling. And we're thinking of Illinois, my home state that I grew up in. It hurts me to see what they have done to that state with its bankrupt efforts that are going on, and now they want to take control of people's retirement without ERISA controls. I will not allow that. And that legislation will pass and be signed by the president. And thankfully then states can go back to the drawing board, come up with their plans, fine. Whatever they want to do, but it'll have to come under the protections that ERISA mandates.
What about the $500,000?
500,000.
I'm not beholden to financial industries, and I think my record proves it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to go to somebody on the left. How about the lady in the leather jacket? Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to ask a follow-up question about the HB 1313 bill. In the bill, which I read, there's a, oh, I should talk louder. In the bill that I read, there is a part where it says the employer can penalize people for not participating in the wellness plan, and I just like you to clarify that.
I don't believe the word is penalize.
It says
It says their incentives and their penalties.
right.
Yeah.
So the penalty will be in place before a person hires in. They understand what they're working with. If it says this is no smoking environment, that's expectations. Now, if they choose to go through a smoking cessation program, then there can be incentives given for the people to do that. That's the process. But that presently is in law governing employee workplaces.
Right, it just says penalty broadly. It doesn't penalty, it says penalty broadly. And I just want to make sure that I can force employees to comply with the wellness program. I agree.
These will be requirements when people hire in to the workplace.
No, it doesn't clarify that.
Employees too.
It doesn't clarify that.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. And I'm going to go to the gentleman back here on the left, waving his hand at me in the blue. It's you.
Hi, I live in Glenwood County. I get Healthy Michigan along with 5,000 other people. I also have mental illness, and I work full time. I could not afford health care before Healthy Michigan. And over 600,000 people get it in Michigan. I'm worried I'm going to lose my care in 2020. Well, how can you help me?
That's a great question, and that's why we've had our governor, Governor Snyder, in to meet with the Energy and Commerce Committee on 2 specific occasions to talk through Healthy Michigan. Arguably, Healthy Michigan in our state, Indiana's Healthy Indiana 2.0, and Ohio to some degree have been the 3 states in the union that have had the best Medicaid expansion programs, and that's why we wanted to see what they were doing, how it works, and how we could, in drafting legislation for the American Health Care Act, give states like that the latitude and the ability to continue moving in a creative way to handle medical issues that you've addressed this morning. And that's why the bill that we passed after 28 hours of debate in our Energy and Commerce Committee does give the ability for states like Michigan, and most specifically Michigan, to continue that on, and as the governor suggested, have a time period that enables them to continue working for alternatives so that issues like yours aren't dropped and left without solution. It's our intention to make sure that you not only have the opportunity you've had under Healthy Michigan, but you have expanded opportunities because of the creativity that goes back to the states for incentive enhancement plans to meet the needs.
Wait a minute. Something wrong here.
And the funding will be there. I want to say thank you for your taking the time to be here today. Delta Airlines waits for no person. So we're going to go. And we look forward to seeing many of you, as we've seen multiple town halls already. See you again. Maybe even as close as the end of this week. You have a good day.